The other evening, I was sitting in a responsible distance from my dear friend Narinda on the steps of my apartment building. It was the dead of New York summer, but somehow the heat wasn't unmanageable. And she was talking to me about her screenplay. She was intent on finishing it, pandemic or not. I know the world is fucked up, but I keep writing like this TV show is getting made, she laughs. As she spoke, a car full of carefree and gorgeous kids jumped out. They were clearly fresh from the beach, with swim trunks and fishnet dresses clinging to their bodies, and tote bags full of umbrellas and towels flung across their shoulders. Elated by a day in the sun, respite from most likely months spent in isolation, they swayed through the streets and they made their way to their own stoop a few houses down. I smiled at them as they passed by. Turning on their Bluetooth speaker moments later, a dance party would commence, and soon other friends would pull up on bikes, hop out of Ubers. They would scream out in recognition and joy. They would even embrace, which sent shockwaves through me. I hadn't seen or experienced that type of closeness in months, save from the intimacy I share with my partner. Narinda and I looked at one another in disbelief. I assume I was slack-jawed for the obvious. Where was the social distancing, my dear neighbors? But also because I was really quite jealous. Last summer, my backyard was ground zero for raucous, rosé-fueled bashes that shook the block. The space filled with my friends, friends of friends, family, and youngins like these. But then COVID. Now the enclosed space simply hosts me. All visitors have to meet out on my brownstone steps. And yet this gorgeous bunch were living in the moment, even if recklessly, and they had somehow negotiated the stakes in their minds. Yes, New York was in stage 3 of reopening, and all around me, it would seem that people were reopening themselves and planning for a future that, in my mind, was not guaranteed. I wasn't fully there, mentally or physically. I was still teetering on the edge of trying to fully live my life. The only one I have, and doing so with hesitation. After all, I was still sitting 6 feet from my own friend. I longed for their ability to trust. 2020 was supposed to be different, progressive, a game-changing year full of action and movement and success. We were going to save the planet. We were going to undo old systems that were broken, imbalanced, and dangerous. I wrote a whole op-ed about it for GANNI. Weeks before landing in Copenhagen for Fashion Week, I chewed over the idea that we could make this decade whatever we wanted to. But now, sitting on the steps of my home, of which I have barely left for months due to lockdown, I can't seem to think or plan ahead. But get this, I also can't seem to stop doing things. I know it sounds paradoxical, but go with me here. I'm physically and emotionally depleted from reading about the soaring death tolls from COVID-19, a feckless government that has failed to protect its citizens, institutional racism that allows our growing police state to kill Black folks who look like me with impunity, a crashing economy, the growing loss of jobs for Americans, and rants from people who refuse to wear masks in public. Doom, fatalism, nihilism, whatever you want to call it, has kept me from doing the simplest of tasks. Answering emails, returning phone calls or texts, finishing my book proposal, finishing this essay. My mind is constantly churning with ideas, but the creative output is stymied. But at the same time, I'm talking constantly, in meetings, and to computer and phone screens, to friends, my family, my boyfriend, and on my newfound IGTV advice show. My vocal cords grew strained from all of it weeks ago, and I had to actually quiet myself. But still, I'm constantly reaching out, trying to form community, offering my followers some form of catharsis and balm for their woes. Emboldened as much as I'm drained by where humanity is at the moment, I must talk about it. Re-energized by the Black Lives Matter rebellion, I re-engaged with what I believe has always been my political intervention and taken on more writing assignments. Writing assignments that make me uncomfortable and dredge up past traumas I've never dealt with. But I still feel compelled to complete, even if all I want to do is take a nap. Hadn't I prepared my whole life for this moment, I thought, reflecting on my master's degree in African American Studies. I dug into my work further, nearing physical and mental exhaustion. Talking, writing. I was a live wire. All this while my relationship with my partner has deepened in ways that I think we both have never suspected. We were a young couple as lockdown hit. It feels like we've been dating a lifetime now, traversing a roller coaster romance brought on by the strains of quarantine. There were moments I didn't think we'd make it, but we were bound together. We found new ways to let the other know we cared. I tell him we'll gut renovate a brownstone one day when we're past all this, when we'll raise our children and I'll write my books. Despair moves over me that the future of our city may not allow for that, but I keep manifesting. And what's stranger is that I have plans to expand even further. I want to push myself to try new things, take on projects, but I wonder, where are all the hours in the day? Do I have the emotional bandwidth to take this all on? So I sit in this space of lurching forwards, but hanging back, of trying to escape, to trust life again, while at once protecting myself from its crushing realities, which boils down to finding little joys in the everyday and carrying a big bottle of Lysol. I'm not sure if this is circling the drain or this is me trying to make sense of the incomprehensible. I don't have all the answers, but the next day I let myself sit in an inflatable pool in my backyard and think about it.